Hello, my name is Lars Jefferson, and I am here to help you understand music. This is my first video on what I hope will be a longer series of how to learn music, how to teach yourself, and how to get the most out of music in your daily life, personal life, how to be more human. So, I'm breaking it down because music, like many other areas of life, is a very complicated understanding. There's parts you can measure, there's parts you can quantify, and that's probably the easy part. You know, it's loud, it's soft, it's high, it's low. But we're going to delve in here a little bit into the aesthetics of music. Why is it beautiful? And how does different styles create aesthetics? So we're just going to give you a bit of an overview here. So when we're going to talk about a subject, we need to talk about the vocabulary. And just like any other subject area, whether you're any kind of professional or laborer or whatever you do in your life, there's vocabulary. We don't say, I need the thingy to do the thing with the thing, because that doesn't make any sense. We need to be very specific in what we're talking about. And so words, I'm going to try to be very precise in my verbiage and my words that I use here so that we know exactly what we're talking about. And we need a vocabulary to be able to describe the world that's around us. And the more precise language we can use, the better we understand it. And so I'm going to start out here with an apple. Okay, it has, I would say, 4 dimensions to understand it. You can quantify the color, the shape, you can measure it, you can chemically break it down to figure out what it's actually made out of, the actual elements from the periodic table of elements. And then there's the smell and the taste and the feeling that we have with our senses. And the taste, especially, is what I would say consider the aesthetic of the object. Does it taste good? I mean, that's a very simple way to put it. But when we're talking about aesthetic, is it good? Is it beautiful? Is it pleasing? Right? The apple tastes good or it doesn't. And I bring this up because when we're looking at an apple, I've showed you just cursory 4 ways to understand an apple. Well, those same 4 ways are how we can understand music. Okay? And simply, music exists in time. Okay? It has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end. All right, you could say maybe philosophically there's music all around us or some other thing. But when we're talking about learning a piece of music or experiencing a piece of music, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay, it can go by fast, it can go by slow. That's the time element. There's the amplitude, which we call pitch. It goes high and low, high and low. And we can control those by playing with the time and playing with the pitch. And that's how we get to music. The next one is the style, and that's the way something sounds. Right? So, like, there's a difference in styles between, say, 1950s rock and roll and an 18th century, concerto for some instrument. Okay, they're both music, but they're completely different styles. They're using the same tools, but they're getting different results because of the style that they are in. And then there's the 4th one. Okay, so you can master time and amplitude, but if you don't have the style, you're not going to move your audience. And as far as music goes, I'm sure we've all heard good performances. We've had amazing performances. And also there's the bad performances. So it's the feeling, it's the emotional component. Okay? So music is more than just time, amplitude, and style. There's that fourth element, which is, can I make my listener feel? And that takes a lot of work to do. But you can't get to feeling without mastering the first three. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about aesthetics. Aesthetics is a whole area in philosophy. Lots of things have been written about it. And it's how we appreciate beauty of something. All right. And we want to find pleasing to our senses. So we have our five senses. I can see visual art that is pleasing. That's aesthetic. Touch. You can have a positive or a beautiful feeling of, say, maybe, a stuffed animal, your pillow, a blanket, maybe some sort of object you like to hold or wrap yourself in. That's an aesthetic experience. Taste, who has their favorite food. It's like, man, I really would crave this kind of thing because I know it's going to make me feel good when I eat it. That's an aesthetic experience. Smell. I can remember the way certain candles my family would burn would smell, especially during the holidays. You might have smell connected to a dish or a food or even just the house. It's like if I smell something, I could have my eyes closed, not even know where I am, but if I smelled it, I knew exactly where I was. Another one would be my dad's pipe tobacco had a really pleasant smell. And that's an aesthetic experience. And we're talking about hearing because we listen to music. And we listen to music for different reasons. You might have your favorite playlist or your favorite song. You want to feel better. You want to remember something. You might have a favorite song that's connected to a moment in your life. Sometimes you just want to feel a certain way. We can do that through music by putting on a song or music that brings us back to a place or to a place that we want to be. And especially, a simple sound, even if we're not talking about music, like the ocean. If I just say the ocean, you probably, if you're in your head, can probably hear the waves. Something like that. And how does that feel? That's an aesthetic experience. So, style and type. Have different aesthetics. Okay, so like a Granny Smith apple has a different flavor, different look, different texture, everything than a Fuji red apple. Okay, Granny Smith are tart and tangy, and a Fuji are nice and sweet. Okay, as far as I know, Granny Smiths are really good for baking in a pie, but you would not put the Fuji in a pie because they have different purposes. All right, and even if I put them side by side and did a taste test of them, if I judge the Granny Smith, I'm testing it on how tart and tangy it is, not its sweetness. Okay, I take the Fuji and I eat it, and I'm judging it on its sweetness, not its tart and tangy. They're different things. They are both apples, but they are different kinds of apples. Okay, so even though we can both call these apples, they have different aesthetics attached to them based on what we, over as humans, have bred them for different purposes. And this gives us to the types of aesthetics for music. Okay, so music, broadly speaking, is the art of sound. Okay? There's been archaeological digs that go way back in the caves. And in the caves, they found some bone flutes, some drums, some primitive string bowed instruments. And an interesting thing I learned from Ted Goya is these instruments were always found in the best acoustically sounding area of the cave. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but even our ancestors who were living, 25 or 30,000 years ago, knew where to do music. It was a special thing. Of course you could do it outside, and they probably did, but for something that was meaningful, they did it in the cave in the place where it would sound the best. And we know they left it there because they left their instruments there when they wandered away. Okay? And as such, we have to think of that music exists in time and space. Okay? The music that our ancestors made in caves is not the music that was made 300 years ago, is not the music that we make today. So we have to put ourselves in those times and spaces, barring a time machine, but we have to be able to put ourselves, just imagine what it was like in these spaces to really understand what that music was like and why they were doing it and how they were doing it and what was it like for everybody else experiencing that music. Okay, so there's several ways to look at, just to perspectives you have to think about when we're talking about different kinds of music. So you got to think of time and space. So at the bottom here, I'm showing you 3 flutes. Okay, on the left is a bone flute. The middle is a modern flute from roughly the 19th century. And then on the right is an electronic wind instrument. Okay, and as they say, as more things change, the more they stay the same. These are just iterations of the same idea. So your older flutes, we got away from using bones. They used sticks, and then we had wooden flutes, and then eventually some people started adding keys, and then they wanted it to be higher or lower, so they added more, and then they added more keys. And as we learned the engineering and stuff, we could make more complex instruments. And now you also have the digital, so I can play with my sounds and manipulate it using my computer. So this is to show that our ancestors had a flute 25,000 years ago, 150 years ago, and today. And if you're thinking about it, what kinds of sounds these would make at the time they were being used, you better have a better understanding of the music that's being made by them. Okay? And that's where it brings us to active listening, where you can imagine the context, where you can experience it, the music the way it was supposed to be experienced. Because sometimes we take the music out of time and space and we just try to look at it. But if it's supposed to be danced to, well, yeah, you can listen to it, but it wasn't meant to be listened to. It was meant to be danced, or vice versa. You hear a song that's meant to be sung, and people are supposed to sit there and listen to it, isn't meant to be danced to. So you have to understand these contexts to better appreciate it. And then as we're talking about active listening, let's talk about the difference between listening versus hearing. You hear things passively, and no, that is not a mistake. It's Muzak. Is the music at the grocery store, the elevator, the restaurant. Okay? It's stuff that usually top 40 hits or something that somebody said, arrange this, put it on, orchestra or saxophone or some other instruments, and we'll use it to play in the background. It's background noise. Okay? And I'm sure there have been studies done by retailers to figure out what kind of music should be played for to get people to buy more stuff. And It's your it's just music that's just there. You're not really listening to it, and you don't think about it. Think of the go to the think. Try to think of a song you heard at the grocery store and sing it back. You can't because it's in the background. You weren't actively listening to it. It was just there. Okay. Another one is video game music, and I'm not putting down video game music because it does impact. They have tense music for tense situations and relaxed music for relaxed situations. It does impact the video game that way, much like a film score does. But you're not generally, you're not interacting. It's part of the whole. Okay, it's in the background. It's there. You're experiencing the game, and the music is added to it to enhance the feeling of whatever the game, or even in a film, what is supposed to be shown. Okay, so you may be listening, you may be hearing the music, but it's in a larger context. So it's background music, but it's still very important. Now, when I'm talking about active listening, okay, if you are a dancer, especially if you do older forms of dancing, square dancing, circle dances, things like that, you follow the form. The dance follows the form of the music. The music follows the form of the dance. There's a chicken or egg question for you that we could look into sometime. Or if you're actively singing, okay, or performing. I play in a band, and I have like three things going on at the same time when I'm playing. I am listening to myself, I'm listening to the people to the left, to the right of me, and I'm listening across the group to figure out how my part fits in, so that I'm not overplaying or underplaying and trying to match articulations and all that. So it's a very active experience when I'm making the music with other people. And then there's also the concert, which I think is probably one of the most things that we know about, where you go to a place for the purposes of experiencing the music. Now, that could be an orchestra, could be a rock band, could be an opera, could be a musical. You go there and you want to just lose yourself. You let it wash over you because you're looking for that experience. You want to feel something, and you know that sound experience is going to get you wherever you want to go. Okay? And what makes listening active is because your brain is following along and getting on, enjoying the experience. Okay? You could have, let's just put this in another context. You have an active listener at a concert, and they're jumping up and down, they're getting down with the music. You also have a person who's outside the gates doing, say, security or whatever. They might not be listening. They can hear it because they can hear it in the background, but their job is focusing on something else. They can hear it, they're not listening to it. And as for parents, you might know this one. Children always hear your voice. I've been a teacher for many years. They hear you, trust me, they hear you, but are they listening to your instructions? And of course, there's various cues you get. One of them is the blank stare, where you're speaking and you might as well be the teacher in Charlie Brown, wah, 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 and they're just glazed over, they don't get it. Whereas other ones, you can tell by their body language and their eyes that they're actually listening to you. And here's Charles Schulz gets it right, where Marcy and Chuck are listening to their teacher. Wah, 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 wah. Because that's how children, if you're getting up and pontificating and speaking lots to children, that's what they're going to hear. Wah, 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 wah. All right. So how do we get to the point where we're making music? Okay? What you're always looking for, whether you're a beginner or you've been playing for a very long time, is to create an aesthetic experience. Okay? Beginners can sound absolutely amazing. It is a lot of work for them because there's a lot of things that they have just learned to do. But you're trying to get that, especially younger children, you got to really work with them on the fundamentals of controlling time and the amplitude and style to get to that aesthetic point. All right. But no matter wherever we're making music, we're looking to try to make something beautiful. All right, and don't just I'm going to take a little tangent here. Don't confuse aesthetic with mood. Okay, your aesthetic is something beautiful. Mood is the way it actually makes you feel. So it could be a dark, sort of sinister sounding music, but if it's done aesthetically well, it gives you that mood. It makes you feel a certain way. So aesthetics is the how well it's done. The mood is what exactly emotional appeal that it has. And so when you're learning to make music, you need to play with it. Just play. And if you're practicing or playing or singing or whatever you're doing, and it gets to a point that it's becoming hard, it's no longer play. And that's when I say, take a break. Okay? And you build up chops to be able to, overcome frustration over a time. But you play with it. Okay? You listen to it, you play with it, you decide what you want to do with it. Have fun. Okay? If it becomes laborious or just like, oh my God, I'm afraid to do this, then it's not playing anymore. Okay? That doesn't mean you don't have to work, but you want to be able to get your music to be aesthetic, to make even the hard parts sound easy. Like, haha, look what I did. And before you go out and buy a bunch of equipment and books and whatever other thing, I'm reminding you that your ears and your voice are your most useful tools to learn music. So let's do a little thought experiment here. Can you match pitch? Okay, think of a song. Any song. Got that song in your head? Good. Can you sing along with it? There you go. Are you matching the pitch? Now, okay, for guys and gals, women sing higher, men sing lower. Okay, that's just the way our bodies are built. Okay, I can't sing Mariah Carey, but I can at least match the pitch in a comfortable part of my voice range. I'm not going to try to sing 7 octaves or something ridiculous like that, but I can at least imitate it. All right, that's still matching pitch, even if it's in the wrong octave. Okay, can you match the rhythm? So are you changing words or pitches at the same time? Okay, and your way to check that is that can a listener recognize it? So somebody, you're going down the walking down the hall or down the street, you're humming and you're whistling or whatever it is you're doing to sing a song. And somebody's like, oh yeah, I heard that song. I like that song. Okay? Even though you're not listening to the actual piece of music, is it recognizable? If you get to the point that you can match pitch, match the rhythm, and it's recognizable, you have the very base foundation of being a musician. Okay? So you don't need to go out and buy anything to do that. So where to start? Now, pop culture today has us in I would say, a really bad spot where the music is anesthetic. It's not feeling. I can't name a piece of music from the last 20 years that is something that is like that would be on my playlist that I would say, oh yeah, I need to listen to that. Okay, there is some, but broadly speaking, a lot of the modern music that's being put out today lacks aesthetic value. because they're just the lyrics are dull and inane, and the writing is boring, and it's just not as good. And the reason I can say that is because when you study music, you learn what music has been and can imagine what it could be. And when you have that knowledge, sometimes knowing too much, but what I recommend doing is you listen. Okay, that does not mean try to listen to too much, because you don't want to overload yourself. But find something that you don't listen to. All right, and live with it for a little bit. Okay. Now you might not appreciate it. There's been lots of music that I have come to enjoy because I had to live with it for a little bit. Okay, and that's what builds up your brain's vocabulary of different types of music. Okay, so pick something that you might be interested in, and give it a whirl. There's no excuses these days. Almost everything's on YouTube, so it's free. You don't need to go to the record store, as it were, and buy a CD just to find something anymore. Go listen. All right. Now, to make it active, what you want to do is something's very simple. Can you keep the beat? Okay. Okay. Beat or tempo is a very steady thing. It's like your heartbeat. You can go fast. You can go slow. Okay. Can you keep the beat with the music? I mean, just for some reason, I had this song stuck in my head earlier today. I've been working on the railroad, so I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day. Now, my voice changes, the rhythm of my voice changes, but the padding doesn't change. Listen again. I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day. Okay? And that's the difference between rhythm and tempo. And we'll get into that later. But is it a steady beat? Now, especially for children, you want to keep the beat somewhere. You can pat your legs. You can clap your hands. Actually, clapping your hands, I did a workshop. It's like one of the worst things you can do, especially for little children, because it has to do with the way their brain develops. So like patting on your knees, okay? Pat your shoulders, pat your head, pat your nose with both hands. Just keep a steady beat. Can you keep a beat? Or listen to the music and just keep the beat. Okay? That's it. And eventually, you get to the point where you're awesome, where you can keep the beat in your head and you don't need to actively do it. But we are learning music, and especially for children, they need to do something active. And especially when I do beat activities with little ones, that active activity gives you a direct visual on what's going on in their brain. Okay? Second one is, can you sing it? All right? Can you sing along with it? Can you sing it by yourself? If I gave you like karaoke, could you sing it by yourself? Very good. Well done. You can sing it by yourself. And that's a hard thing. That's like a monumental step. People can sing with people or with the radio, but when you take away the accompaniment and stuff, if you can still sing it, you're doing an excellent job. Listen to the patterns. Now, as we go on here, I'm going to show you patterns in later videos, but music loves patterns. There's a lot of repetition, and when you start hearing and listening for the patterns, you won't unhear them because they're everywhere. And then the last one is dance to it. I can't recommend that enough. Some people are really kinesthetic learners, so they want to get up and they want to dance. They want to move. Okay, and the way to sort of judge the movement is if you watch it with the music, and then watch a dance, watch yourself dance, or watch another person dance without the music. You should be able to see in their body, in their movements, that they are keeping the beat, that they're keeping time with the music. Okay, for some people this comes naturally. Other people, it's harder. All right, we are all different, and if it's hard for you, there are these wonderful people called music teachers who are out there to help you, and I am one of them, and I can help you. So, you want to go back to making music? Do something active to get your brain going. Okay, keep a beat, sing it, find the patterns, listen to it. If it sounds familiar from something before, guess what? It probably is. And by all means, dance to it. If you would like more information about music or learning music, contact me at the link in the description. And I hope to make more of these. Have a great day.